I bought my brother a house for $770,000 cash just to be told I wasn't on his wedding guest list. He told his rich in-laws I didn't exist, that he was an only child. He thought a block button could erase 17 years of my sacrifice. But as I sat in my car watching his wedding lights flicker in the window, I realized he forgot one thing. You can't delete the person who owns the roof over your head. The message arrived at 6:42 p.m. I remember the time because I stared at it for a full minute before my brain accepted what I was reading. You're not on the guest list. That was it. No explanation, no apology, no hesitation. Just a sentence short enough to read in one breath, heavy enough to crush 17 years of hope. I was sitting in my car outside the house I bought for my brother. The engine was still running. The soft hum of it filled the silence while those 5 words burned into my screen. You're not on the guest list. Inside that house, wedding lights were already being tested. White fairy strings wrapped around the balcony railings. Delivery vans came and went. A florist carried in tall glass arrangements one by one. Everything looked beautiful. Everything looked like family, and I wasn't invited. For a long moment, I didn't react. No anger, no tears, no shock, just stillness, like my body had shut down to protect something fragile inside me, something that had already been breaking for years. I locked my phone and placed it face down on the passenger seat. Then I looked at the house. 4 bedrooms, fresh paint, clean stone driveway, warm yellow porch lights glowing like something from a movie. I remembered signing the papers 2 years earlier. $770,000, paid in full. No loan, no mortgage, no conditions. Just one quiet hope sitting in my chest like a child waiting to be chosen. Maybe now they'll see me. Maybe now I'll belong. I laughed softly. Not because anything was funny, but because suddenly everything was clear. You can give someone a house, woo, and still not be given a seat at their table. 17 years earlier, I learned what it meant to disappear. The day my mother died, the air in our home changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, like warmth leaving a room when someone forgets to close a window. She had been the balance, the equalizer. The only person who made sure love was shared, not distributed. When she was gone, fairness went with her. My brother became the center of everything. He was the man of the house. He was the future. He was the responsibility. I was convenient silence. Nobody announced it. Nobody said it out loud, but I felt it in 1,000 small moments. He got a car at 16. I got bus schedules. He got help choosing universities. I got reminders to figure things out myself. He got emotional support. I got independence whether I wanted it or not. At first, I thought it was temporary. Grief changes people, I told myself. They just need time. But time didn't fix anything. It revealed everything. I learned early that asking for help made people uncomfortable. So I stopped asking. At 16, I started working before sunrise at a coffee shop. At night, I studied until my eyes burned. On weekends, I worked double shifts. I built my life piece by piece like someone assembling furniture without instructions. Slowly, carefully, alone. Years passed. I became successful. More successful than anyone expected, especially my family. But success doesn't erase childhood hunger. Not the kind that lives in your chest. The kind that whispers, maybe now they'll love me. So when my father called after years of silence, I didn't hesitate to answer. He didn't ask how I was. He didn't ask about my life. He said only one thing. Your brother needs a house. He's getting serious with a girl from a good family. That was all. Not would you help? Not are you able? Just expectation. And I said yes, because hope, even wounded hope, still breathes. The day I gave my brother the keys, he hugged me, a real hug, warm, tight, grateful. Or maybe I imagined the gratitude. Maybe I just needed to feel it. For a few weeks, everything seemed different. He called more. He sounded kinder. My father's tone softened slightly. I thought the house had built a bridge between us. I didn't realize that it had only built him a stage. The exclusions started small. A dinner I wasn't told about, a holiday gathering with limited space, a birthday celebration that happened last minute. Every excuse sounded reasonable until they formed a pattern. Then came the social media posts. Photos of smiling faces around dining tables I chose, decorations I paid for, walls I painted, captions that said, family night. Just us. Perfect home. No mention of me. At first, I told myself it didn't matter. Then I noticed something else. Old photos disappearing. Pictures where I stood beside my brother, cropped. Memories edited. History rewritten, like someone slowly erasing pencil marks from paper. Carefully, deliberately, patiently, the truth hit me one winter night while scrolling online. A photo of my brother, his girlfriend, my father standing in the living room of the house I bought. Christmas lights glowing behind them. Caption, small family. All we need, small family. All we need. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Something inside my chest shifted, like a lock turning. I wasn't being forgotten. I was being removed. And now, here I was, sitting outside that same house. Not invited to the wedding. Not included in the family. Not acknowledged at all. My phone buzzed again. Another message from my brother. I opened it slowly. Don't make this difficult. That was the moment something finally broke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just cleanly. Like a thread snapping under tension. I looked at the house one last time. Then I whispered the first honest words I had spoken in years. You erase me. My hands rested on the steering wheel, my breathing steady, my thoughts calm, but you forgot one thing. I reached for my bag and pulled out a thin folder. Inside it, property documents, ownership papers. My name, Kliegel, undeniable. The house he lived in, the house he celebrated in, the house he used to build his perfect life, was never his. A slow breath left my chest. For the first time in 17 years, I wasn't hoping. I wasn't waiting. I wasn't asking to be loved. I was deciding what happens next. And what I decided would change everything. I didn't go home after reading the message. I stayed parked across the street from the house, watching strangers decorate the life I built. White chairs were being unloaded from a truck. Long folding tables followed. Someone carried gold centerpieces wrapped in plastic. A wedding planner walked around with a clipboard, pointing at things that needed adjusting. Everything was moving fast. Everything was organized. Everything was perfect, except the truth. No one there knew whose money paid for the walls around them. No one knew whose signature made that celebration possible. No one knew the sister who bought the house was sitting 30 meters away, invisible. I should have left, but I couldn't. Because for the first time, I wasn't watching as family. I was watching as the owner, and that changed everything. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I ignored it. Then it rang again. I answered. A cheerful female voice spoke quickly, professionally. Hello, I'm calling to confirm final details for tomorrow's ceremony. You're listed as emergency contact for the property access code. I ended the call. So that's how deeply erased I was. Important enough to manage the house. Not important enough to attend the wedding inside it. I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. Something cold and steady settled inside my chest. Not anger, not sadness. Clarity. Memories started lining up in my mind, one after another, like evidence in a case finally making sense. The dinner I was forgotten from happened the week his fiancée's parents visited. The engagement party I never heard about hosted in the backyard I designed. The photos online, carefully framed so no one asked where the house came from. He wasn't just excluding me, he was hiding me. Because my existence didn't match the story he was selling. Self-made man, successful homeowner, perfect family background. There was no space in that story for a sister who paid for everything, and reputation, especially among wealthy people, is currency. More valuable than money, more fragile than glass. A black luxury car pulled into the driveway. I recognized my brother immediately. Perfect suit, relaxed posture, confident smile. He stepped out like a man who believed the world belonged to him. Then his fiancée came out from the passenger side. Elegant, composed, effortless. Her parents followed in another car, dressed in expensive understatement. The kind of people who measure worth without asking questions. They walked into the house together, a complete family unit, seamless, polished, and entirely fictional. That was the moment I understood something important. This wedding wasn't about love, it was about image, status, presentation, proof. He wasn't marrying into a family, he was auditioning for acceptance. And the house, what was his biggest credential? I opened my glove compartment and took out the spare property file I always kept with me. Original purchase agreement, ownership certificate, legal registration, transfer conditions none. Every document clean, every signature real. Every page a quiet reminder. This life he was displaying rested entirely on something that wasn't his. I ran my fingers slowly across my name printed at the top of the deed. For years I held those papers like protection, insurance, security, a way to stay connected to family. Now they felt like leverage. My brother stepped outside again a few minutes later, laughing with his future father-in-law. They stood on the driveway, right where I once stood handing him the keys. I remembered his words that day. You changed my life. No, I didn't. I just delayed the moment he revealed who really was. He checked his phone. Typed something. A second later, my screen lit up. A message from him. Please don't create drama tomorrow. Respect my boundaries. My boundaries. I stared at the words, then looked up at the house again. The audacity almost impressed me. He wasn't ashamed. He wasn't nervous. He believed he had already won. Because in his mind, power belongs to the person who controls the narrative. And right now, he thought he controlled everything. The sky darkened slowly as evening settled in. Lights turned on across the property. Warm golden glow filled every window. Music testing began, soft instrumental pieces floating into the night air. A rehearsal dinner started inside. Laughter drifted out. Glasses clinked. Voices overlapped in celebration. I imagined introductions happening inside. This is our home. We worked so hard for this. We're proud of what we built. Built. The word sat heavy in my mind. Built on silence. Built on erasure. Built on the assumption that I would stay quiet forever. But something inside me had changed. For 17 years, I chased belonging. Tonight, chased approval. Chased recognition. Tonight, I stopped chasing. And when you stop chasing something, you finally see it clearly. Family had never been something they offered me. It was something I kept trying to earn. And I was done paying. I started the engine, put the car in reverse. Then stopped. My eyes returned to the house one more time. I didn't feel emotional. I felt strategic, careful, precise, like someone standing at the beginning of a chess game already seeing the final move because I understood something my brother didn't. Reputation is powerful, but only while the illusion holds, and illusions collapse instantly when exposed to truth. I pulled out my phone, opened my contacts, scrolled past his name, paused, then kept scrolling. Until I reached someone else, a real estate attorney, one of the best. I pressed call. He answered on the second ring. Good evening. How can I help? I watched the glowing windows of the house as voices inside celebrated a future built on a lie. My voice came out calm, measured, controlled. I'd like to initiate a property sale. Immediate listing, priority handling, a pause, occupied residence. Yes, owner consent documentation. I am the owner. Another pause, longer this time. Then his tone shifted, professional focus, sharpening. Understood, we can move quickly. Are there timing considerations? I looked at the decorations, the lights, the guests arriving tomorrow. The vows planned under a roof he believed proved his worth. Yes, I said quietly. Closing date must be extremely soon. When the call ended, I sat in silence for a moment. My heart wasn't racing. My hands weren't shaking. There was no dramatic rush of emotion. Just stillness. The kind that comes when a decision is final. Inside the house, music grew louder. Someone opened the front door. Voices spilled out, joyful, confident, unaware. They were celebrating permanency. Inside something temporary. I drove away slowly, but not before whispering one sentence into the dark car interior. Tomorrow, you celebrate a life that isn't yours. My grip tightened slightly on the steering wheel. And very soon, everyone will know. That night, contracts began moving. Calls were made. Documents prepared. Processes triggered that could not be undone. By morning, everything would still look perfect. But beneath the surface, the foundation of his entire life would already be collapsing, and he wouldn't even see it coming. Morning arrived beautifully. That was the cruelest part. The sky was clear. Soft gold sunlight stretched across rooftops like a blessing. A gentle breeze moved through the neighborhood, carrying the faint scent of fresh flowers and polished wood. It was a perfect day for a wedding. Inside the house, everything was already in motion. Florists adjusted arrangements with delicate precision. Catering staff moved like a silent orchestra. Trays, glasses, folded linens placed exactly where they belonged. A violinist rehearsed near the staircase, slow, elegant notes drifting through high ceilings designed for beauty, not truth. Outside, cars began arriving early. Guests stepping out dressed in muted luxury. Silk linen, tailored confidence, polite smiles exchanged between families measuring each other quietly. Reputation recognized reputation, status greeting status, everything proceeding exactly as planned, exactly as expected, exactly as imagined, except something invisible had already begun. Across the city, in a quiet legal office, documents moved through printers one after another, ink drying on decisions that could not be reversed. Signatures placed where permanence once lived, ownership verification completed. Transfer authority confirmed. Emergency listing activated. Priority market exposure authorized. A property once defined as family home was now categorized as high-value residential asset, immediate sale. Language matters, words shape reality. And the language had already changed. I stood across the street again, same from perspective. Yesterday, I watched as someone invisible. Today, I watched as inevitability. The house looked radiant in daylight. White floral arches framed the entrance. Gold ribbons tied along the railing caught sunlight like strands of fire. Staff moved with efficiency born from expensive training. Everything polished, everything impressive, everything fragile. My phone buzzed once. A message from the attorney. Listing is live. Private buyer interest already active. High urgency increases competitive offers. Expect rapid movement. Another message followed seconds later. Legally, occupants must be notified prior to closing. Timeline depends on buyer terms. Some buyers prefer immediate vacancy. Immediate vacancy. The phrase settled in my mind like quiet thunder. Inside that house, makeup artists were probably working right now. Stylists adjusting fabrics. Lauder bouncing off marble surfaces. Champagne poured into thin, delicate glasses. Celebration floating on top of paperwork that was already rewriting their future. I wondered what moment would break first. The ceremony, the reception, or the illusion inside his own mind. Guests continued arriving. I saw her parents step out of a dark sedan again, poised, dignified, controlled. The kind of people who don't ask questions because their world rarely gives them reasons to doubt. They looked at the house with approval, measured it silently, assessed its worth, not knowing they were evaluating something already slipping away. My brother appeared at the front entrance minutes later. Perfect suit again, confident posture again. That same smile, the one that belonged to a man who believed stability was permanent once displayed publicly. He shook hands, embraced relatives, moved like a host welcoming others into his achievement. Watching him, something unexpected happened inside me. I didn't feel anger, I didn't feel hurt, I felt distance. Like observing a stranger perform a role he memorized, but never truly earned. At 9:17 a.m., my phone rang. Attorney. I answered calmly. Good morning, he said. His voice carried controlled urgency. We have a serious buyer. Cash purchase. No financing delay. They want immediate contract execution if conditions are met. How immediate? I asked. Today, if possible. Today. I looked at the wedding arch, the musicians, the staff adjusting chairs for guests who had no idea they were attending a celebration inside a property already being negotiated for transfer. What conditions? I asked quietly. Vacant possession required within 72 hours of closing. 72 hours, 3 days. A home presented as generational stability. Reduced to a countdown, I closed my eyes briefly, not from hesitation, from clarity. Proceed, I said. No tremor in my voice, no pause, just decision. By late morning, the house transformed completely. Music now played continuously. Guests filled white chairs arranged in perfect rows. The air carried layered scents, roses, perfume, polished wood, champagne expectation. Someone laughed loudly near the entrance. A photographer positioned people carefully. Closer together, yes, perfect, beautiful family, beautiful. The word echoed strangely. I wondered how beauty survives exposure to truth. At 11:42 a.m., my brother stepped aside from guests to check his phone. His smile faded, slightly. Brows read something again. Then again, confusion flickered, quick but visible. He looked around as if searching for confirmation that his environment remained stable. But nothing had changed. Music still played. Guests still chatted. Flowers still bloomed. Only information had shifted. Invisible, but irreversible. His fingers moved rapidly across his screen. Seconds later, my phone vibrated. His name, I let it ring once, then answered. His voice was low, controlled but strained underneath. What did you do? Direct, no greeting, no pretending. Interesting. What do you mean? I asked calmly. I just received a legal notification request, property verification, listing inquiry, explain it. Silence stretched between us. Around him, wedding laughter continued. Around me, stillness. I said my house. I said. No emphasis. No drama. Just truth. He didn't speak immediately. When he did, his voice was different. Lower, harder. You're joking. No. Breathing on the other end changed. Faster now. You can't sell this house? I can, I said softly. It belongs to me. You gave it to me. I allowed you to live in it. Silence again. Heavy now. He stepped away further. I could hear distant music fading behind him as he moved somewhere private. Guests still laughing, glass clinking, a violin playing something gentle and romantic. How long? He asked. Listing began last night. A sharp? And you're playing this? Less. Another pause. You're doing this today, on my wedding day. I looked at the decorated arch. Yes. His composure cracked then, not loudly, not dramatically, but unmistakably. This is insane. This is cruel. You're destroying everything. No, I said quietly. I'm revealing what already exists. He didn't respond, because he'd understood. Deep down, he always understood. Inside the house, someone announced that the ceremony would begin in 10 minutes. Guests started taking their seats. Music shifted to formal processional rehearsal. His fiancée appeared at the doorway, radiant, calm, unaware of the structural collapse already scheduled. She smiled toward where he stood. He didn't smile back. His voice returned strained now. What do you want? There it was. The question power always asks when it realizes control is gone. What do I want? I repeated. Yes, money. Recognition. Apology. What fixes this? Fix? Such an interesting word. I wanted a sister, I said softly. Silence. He had no negotiation prepared for that. Behind him, someone called his name urgently. Guests are seated. We're ready. He covered the phone slightly, murmured something back, then returned to me, his voice now tight with panic restrained by social pressure. You can't do this right now. People are here. Her family is here. Investors, partners. You have no idea what this will cost me. Oh, I whispered gently. I know exactly what it will cost. The music changed. Processional beginning. Guests standing. Applause. Everything moving forward. Because ceremonies don't stop for truth. They continue until interruption becomes undeniable. I'll call you after, he said quickly, desperate now. We'll talk tonight. We'll fix this privately. Privately. That word again. Where secrets survive. Where illusions recover, where truth stays hidden. No, I said calmly, there won't be privacy, and I ended the call. The ceremony began. She walked down the aisles slowly, gracefully, radiant with belief in permanence. He stood waiting, but something in his posture had shifted. Rigid now, distracted, eyes not fully present, because somewhere inside his mind numbers were calculating. Timeframes collapsing, consequences multiplying, ownership dissolving. My phone vibrated again. Attorney. Contract signed, he said immediately. Buyer executed agreement. Closing accelerated. Formal occupant notice required within hours. Not days, hours. I looked at the house glowing under perfect sunlight. Wedding vows echoing faintly through open windows. Les, I said quietly. Send the notice. Inside the ceremony, vows were being spoken. Promises of forever. Commitments to shared future. Words designed to feel unbreakable. At that exact moment, a legal courier vehicle turned slowly onto the street, parked near the entrance. Stepped out holding a document envelope marked urgent delivery. Timing is a fascinating thing. I watched as he approached the house, walked toward staff. Asked for property authority, confusion, explanation, insistence, finally acceptance. He was led toward the ceremony area carefully, respectfully but firmly, because legal notice cannot wait for emotional convenience. The officiant paused mid-sentence. Guests turned, whispers spreading like ripples. My brother stepped forward, face pale now, envelope in his hand. Everything still looked beautiful, but the first crack had appeared. He opened it slowly. Read. Then read again. His shoulders dropped just slightly. Not dramatic, not explosive, just gravity finally arriving. The officiant asked quietly if everything was all right. He didn't answer immediately. Because how do you explain to hundreds of witnesses that the life you're celebrating has just been legally dismantled? Across the street, I sat in complete silence. Watching truth enter the room, watching illusion struggle to breathe, watching reputation meet reality. And for the first time in 17 years, I wasn't invisible anymore. Inside that housey, everything still looked perfect. But now, everyone could feel something was wrong. And once people sense instability, they start asking questions, and questions destroy illusions faster than anger ever could. The wedding hadn't stopped yet, but the foundation beneath it was already gone. And this was only the beginning. Silence doesn't fall all at once. It spreads, slowly, like a crack moving through glass, thin at first, almost invisible, until suddenly everything is fragile. That's what happened inside the ceremony. At first, only the people closest to my brother noticed something was wrong. The officiant paused mid-sentence. My brother stood frozen, the envelope open in his hands, eyes scanning the same lines again and again, like the meaning might change if he read them enough times. It didn't. Paper doesn't lie. Paper doesn't soften truth. Paper simply records reality and delivers it when necessary. Guests shifted in their seats. Soft whispers began, polite at first, controlled, socially careful. What is it? As something wrong. Legal notice? Property matter? His fiancée stood across from him, bouquet held perfectly at waist level, smile slowly fading as confusion replaced ceremony-ready composure. She leaned slightly toward him. What happened? She whispered. He didn't answer immediately, because some truths cannot be spoken without collapsing everything around them. Outside, sunlight still poured across the lawn. The violinist stopped playing but remained standing, instrument tucked gently beneath her chin, waiting for instruction that never came. Inside, tension thickened. Guests turned in their chairs, no longer focused on vows but on him. People with money are trained observers. They read posture, tone, micro-expressions. They recognize instability faster than anyone else, because instability is expensive. And right now, instability was standing at the altar in a tailored suit. He folded the paper once, then again, then lowered it slowly to his side. His fiancée's voice sharpened slightly, still controlled but no longer soft. Tell me what happened. He leaned closer to her, spoke quietly, too quietly for the guests to hear. But whatever he said, her entire body stiffened. Her fingers tightened around the bouquet so hard that one of the white roses bent sideways. Her parents stood immediately, not dramatic, not emotional, just alert. The kind of alert that comes from people who understand risk. The officiant cleared his throat gently. Perhaps we should take a short pause. But no one was listening anymore, because something far more interesting than a wedding was unfolding. Something unscripted, something real. And reality always captures attention more strongly than ceremony. My phone buzzed. Attorney. Notice delivered successfully. Legal acknowledgement recorded. Occupants informed of contractual transfer timeline. Transfer timeline. Such a quiet phrase for something so loud. Inside the house, movement began. Small movements first. Her father stepped forward toward my brother. Hand extended. May I see that? Authority without aggression. Expectation without demand. My brother hesitated. 1 second. 2 seconds, then handed him the document. The older man read quickly, efficiently. His expression didn't explode. It tightened, eyes narrowing just slightly, mouth pressing into a thin, controlled line. He finished reading, looked up, and in that single look everything changed. Because respect had just been replaced by assessment, and assessment is dangerous. What does this mean? He asked calmly. No anger, no accusation, just inquiry, the most threatening tone a powerful person can use. My brother swallowed. His voice came out lower than before. The property is being sold. Silence. Absolute. Total. Final. Even the breeze outside seemed to stop moving. Sold. Her mother repeated. One word. Sharp, precise. Yes, he said. Another pause. Then the question that determines social survival. By whom? That was the moment truth becomes public identity. My brother hesitated again, because names carry consequences, and once spoken cannot be reclaimed. The legal owner, he said quietly. Her father's eyes sharpened further. And that is not you? No answer. No explanation needed. Silence confirmed everything. Guests began standing now, not leaving, just repositioning, closer, better view, better hearing, because something significant was happening. And people never walk away from significance. His fiancée stepped back slightly, not far, just enough to create space. Distance communicates faster than language. You told us this house was yours, she said quietly. Her voice wasn't emotional, that was worse. It was analytical. He opened his mouth, closed it. Tried again. But what explanation repairs deception revealed publicly? None. The officiant stepped aside fully now. Ceremony suspended. Structure dissolved. This was no longer a wedding. This was exposure. Her father folded the document carefully, very carefully. Precision always appears when anger is controlled. How long? He asked calmly. Have you been presenting property ownership that does not belong to you? Language had shifted. Not personal, not emotional. Legal, formal, dangerous. My brother's voice barely carried. Since purchase? And who purchased it? Silence, everyone watching. Waiting. My brother's shoulders dropped slightly. My sister. That was the rarest moment the guests reacted openly. Not loudly, but audibly. Small, sharp breaths. Soft murmurs. Heads turning. Information spreading through the crowd like electricity. Sister. Owner. Misrepresented. His fiancée's face changed. Not heartbreak. Not sadness. Calculation. She was rebuilding her understanding of reality in real time. Repositioning facts. Reevaluating everything. And people raised in powerful families do that quickly. You built your reputation. Her father continued slowly, on property you did not own. Statement, not question. My brother didn't deny it, couldn't. Because the document existed. Evidence always ends debate. Outside, I watched through the open front doors. I could see guests standing now in full clusters. Ceremony chairs abandoned. Social order rearranging itself around new information. Reputation restructuring live in front of witnesses. My phone buzzed again. Attorney. Buyer requests early inspection access. Possible accelerated possession timeline. Preparing revised notice window. Accelerated. Faster collapse. Interesting. Inside, voices grew slightly louder. Control slipping. Not chaotic, but unstable. The most dangerous stage. Because once control breaks publicly, it never fully returns. His fiancée spoke again, slowly, carefully. You hid the person who made this possible. Not accusation. Recognition, he said nothing. Because truth requires no response. Her mother leaned toward her husband slightly. A quiet exchange. Private, but visible. Decision-making in progress. That is when my brother truly understood the scale of what was happening. This wasn't embarrassment. This wasn't conflict. This was evaluation of long-term association risk. And in elite social structures, risk determines loyalty. Guests had begun checking phones now. Messages spreading. Information traveling beyond the property. Beyond the wedding. Beyond the moment. Because public events generate public narrative. And narrative builds reputation. Or destroys it. My brother finally spoke louder. This is being handled. The sale isn't final yet. We can resolve this. Resolve. Another word built on illusion. Her father's voice remained calm. But it is no longer yours. Simple. Final. Irrefutable. The bride lowered her boot completely now. Flowers resting against her dress. Symbol of ceremony now meaningless. She looked at him differently. Not as partner. As information source. That shift alone changed everything. Across the street, I felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction. Not victory. Completion. Like closing a book that was never meant to remain open forever. Inside the house, no one mentioned continuing the ceremony. Because you cannot promise forever. When permanence just collapsed publicly. Then something subtle but devastating happened. Guests began stepping back, not dramatically leaving, just creating distance. Physical distance becomes social distance. Social distance becomes reputation damage. Reputation damage becomes isolation. And isolation is the most expensive consequence of all. His business associates stood together whispering. Her extended family exchanged quiet glances. People who arrived expecting celebration were now witnessing exposure. And exposure is unforgettable. His fiancée spoke one final time. Her voice quiet, steady, clear. Why didn't you tell us the truth? That question carries more weight than accusation. Because it demands character explanation. Not event explanation. He had no answer. Because the truth was simple. Image mattered more than honesty. And now image was gone. She handed her bouquet to the nearest chair. A silent gesture. Ceremony officially abandoned. Outside, I started my car, engine humming softly. Inside the house, voices rising slightly. Discussions intensifying. Decisions forming. Reputation recalculating. Everything shifting. My phone buzzed one last time. Attorney. Buyer confirmed. Final execution timeline. Closing scheduled within 48 hours. Occupancy termination required immediately thereafter. 48 hours. The house wasn't just lost socially. It was lost physically. I looked at the windows glowing under afternoon light. People still inside, still processing, still reacting, still adjusting to reality. Then I whispered quietly, the foundation is gone. And for the first time since childhood, I drove away. Without looking back, people think destruction is loud. It isn't. Real collapse is quiet, organized, procedural. And once it begins, it doesn't stop for emotions. The wedding never officially ended. No announcement, no apology, no explanation to guests. People simply left, slowly at first, then faster. Clusters dissolving into separate vehicles. Engines starting, doors closing. Silk dresses sliding into leather seats. Polished shoes stepping into uncertainty. Within 40 minutes, the property that was meant to display perfection looked like an abandoned stage after a performance no one understood. Chairs still aligned. Flowers still perfect. Music equipment still wired. But the audience was gone. And without an audience, image has no value. My brother stood inside the house long after everyone left. Same position. Same suit, same expression. Shock has a strange effect on time. Minutes stretch, thoughts loop. Reality refuses to feel real. He kept looking at the document like it was written in another language. Sale notice, transfer confirmation, occupancy termination timeline. Words that don't ask permission before changing lives. His fiancée sat across the room. Not crying, shouting, not even speaking. Just sitting perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, eyes fixed on nothing. That silence was worse than anger. Because anger means connection still exists. Silence means evaluation is happening. An evaluation decides futures. Her parents were not emotional either. They were on their phones, making calls, short conversations, efficient, controlled. People who manage reputation don't react dramatically. They respond structurally. Damage control begins immediately. Information containment, narrative adjustment, association distancing, all happening quietly. Right there in the living room my brother once called his. Then her father stood, walked toward him, exactly 2 steps away, close enough to command attention, far enough to signal separation. His voice was calm, measured, professional. You misrepresented ownership of a major asset, not accusation. Statement of fact. My brother didn't answer. Because facts do not require discussion. You allowed our family, the man continued, to build social association based on incorrect information. Each word deliberate. Each word recorded in memory. This was no longer personal. This was reputational accounting. My brother finally spoke. Voice hoarse. I was going to tell you. The older man didn't react, didn't blink. Didn't even breathe differently. Before or after legal transfer exposed the truth publicly. Silence. Answer unnecessary. Across the room his fiancée stood. Walked toward the window, looked outside at decorations still fluttering in soft wind. Her voice was quiet, but final. I need time to think. Not emotional, not dramatic, just withdrawal of certainty. That sentence alone ended the marriage more effectively than any argument. Her parents nodded once. No discussion. Decision accepted. They left the house within 3 minutes. No raised voices, no visible anger, just absence. And absence is the loudest judgment powerful people deliver. My brother was alone, completely alone, in a house he didn't own, in silence he couldn't escape. That night, no one posted wedding photos, no congratulation messages, no celebration videos. Social media remained quiet. And quiet online is dangerous, because when people don't know what to say, they wait, they observe, they investigate, and curiosity always finds truth eventually. By morning, rumors began. Soft ones first. Something happened. Property issue? Ownership confusion? Legal complication? Each version incomplete. Each version spreading. Because information vacuum always fills itself. At 9:12 a.m., the first confirmation appeared. A real estate listing. Public, professional. Unmistakable, the house. Full exterior photos. Interior walkthrough. Price listed. Ownership verified. Availability immediate. My brother saw the minutes after publication because someone sent him the link with one simple message of, "Is this your house?" He clicked, scrolled, stopped breathing. Because there it was. His living room. His driveway. His bedroom. Displayed like inventory. Property description line 3. Currently occupied. Possession guaranteed upon closing. Guaranteed, not negotiable. Guaranteed. He called me immediately. First time since blocking me. Phone rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. I answered. Silence on his end. Heavy breathing. Then, "You're selling it." Not a question. Recognition. "Yes," I said. "You can't do this?" Calm voice. Simple reply. "I already did. You're ruining everything?" "No," I said quietly. "I'm revealing everything." Long pause, then desperation entered his voice for the first time. "Where am I supposed to go?" That question mattered. But not in the way he expected, because he never asked where I was supposed to go. Oh, when he erased me from his life. "That," I said calmly, something homeowners usually plan for. Silence, heavy, unstable. Then, anger. Real anger. "You did this on purpose." Wes, no denial. No explanation, just truth. His voice cracked. "You destroyed my wedding." I corrected him gently. "No, I ended your performance." He hung up, because some conversations cannot be survived emotionally. By afternoon, buyer representatives arrived for physical inspection. Professional, proficient, polite, walking through rooms with measuring devices. Discussing renovation potential, evaluating resale value, talking about future use, as if the current occupant didn't exist, which legally, he didn't. Neighbors watched, windows opened slightly, curtains moved. People notice when luxury homes change hands suddenly. Status environments are built on observation, and observation creates narrative. By evening, his fiancé's family released a statement, short, neutral, carefully worded. Due to unforeseen legal and property circumstances, the engagement has been postponed pending clarification of material disclosures. Material disclosures, elegant language for deception. That statement spread faster than gossip because formal wording confirms seriousness. No one questioned anymore, they understood. Within 24 hours, invitations were quietly revoked, venue bookings canceled, vendor payments disputed, guest lists archived, wedding erased administratively, like it never existed. But social memory doesn't erase that easily, because people remember why something vanished. My brother stopped answering calls, stopped leaving the house, stopped posting online. Isolation had begun, and isolation magnifies consequences. 48 hours after notice delivery, final documents executed, funds transferred, ownership changed officially, irreversibly at 10:03 a.m. He received the final legal message, vacate within 24 hours. Enforcement authorized thereafter. 24 hours, that's all. Years of image, years of performance, reduced to 1 day. He called movers, emergency packing. Fast decisions, no planning, no dignity, just removal, furniture wrapped, boxes sealed, closets emptied, decorations removed, all under supervision of people who had never heard his story and didn't care. To them, he was just an occupant, nothing more. At sunset, he walked out the front door carrying the last box turned, looked at the house, really looked this time, not as owner, not as host. Not a symbol, just a structure that no longer belonged to him. He placed the keys in the lockbox provided by the buyer, closed it. He didn't cry, didn't shout, didn't speak, because some losses are too complete for emotion. Across the street, I watched quietly, not hiding, not approaching, just observing. 17 years. Of trying to belong, of giving, of hoping, of earning approval that never came, ended with one simple action. Reclaiming what was mine, he got into his car, drove away. No destination, no plan, no reputation strong enough to protect him anymore. And for the first time in his life, he understood something fundamental. Status borrowed from illusion can disappear overnight, but truth always waits patiently. For the moment it becomes visible, losing a house is physical, losing reputation is structural, and structural collapse spreads further, faster, and deeper than anything material ever could. The first week after the eviction felt quiet, too quiet. My brother believed silence meant recovery time, damage control space, a pause before life stabilized again. He didn't understand something important. Silence after exposure isn't peace, it's observation. People were watching, waiting, measuring distance. On Monday morning, he went to his office. Same suit, same watch, same confident posture he'd worn for years. Routine creates illusion of stability. If nothing looks different, maybe nothing is different. But the moment he entered the building, something felt wrong. The receptionist smiled, but not fully. A polite smile, professional, distant, no warmth. He walked past the open workspace. Conversation stopped. Not completely. just softened. Voices lowered slightly. Eyes followed him longer than normal. People weren't shocked anymore. They were confirming. He entered the conference room for the weekly executive briefing. 4 colleagues already seated, all senior partners, all men who had once praised his discipline and strategic thinking. Today, they didn't stand to greet him. Small change, huge meaning. Meeting started normally. Numbers reviewed, quarterly projections discussed, market movement analyzed. Then one partner cleared his throat, looked directly at him. We need clarification regarding recent public information. Careful wording. Corporate tone. Reputation language. My brother leaned back, controlled voice. What information? The partner didn't hesitate. Property ownership misrepresentation connected to your personal financial disclosures. Not rumor, not gossip, documented reputational risk. Another partner slid a printed page across the table. Real estate listing, legal ownership record, public transaction history. Everything clean, everything visible, everything undeniable. We need to understand exposure. The partner continued calmly. Exposure, not concern, not sympathy. Risk assessment. My brother tried authority. This is a personal matter. The room remained silent. Then the senior partner spoke. In high-value environments, personal credibility is professional currency. No argument possible, because everyone in that room lived by that rule. Did you knowingly present assets that were not legally yours during partnership evaluation discussions? Direct, precise, legally relevant. Pause. Too long. Wrong answer length. Because truthful people answer quickly. Yes, he said finally. Just one word. But that word changed his professional identity permanently. No one reacted emotionally. They simply wrote notes. Documentation because the moment trust ends. Second partner spoke. That constitutes material credibility distortion. Third partner. That affects financial representation reliability. Senior partner. That affects firm reputation. Each statement building structure. Logical. Sequential. Irreversible. Then the decision. Immediate. Controlled. Professional. You will be placed on administrative suspension pending formal review. No debate, no negotiation, no discussion, just removal. He left the office carrying a single folder. Same building, same city, completely different status. By evening, industry networks knew. Not details, just enough. Credibility issue. Asset misrepresentation. Reputational concern as phrases move faster than truth because they don't require explanation. 3 days later, invitations stopped arriving. Business dinners canceled. Speaking event withdrawn. Investment round participation quietly reassigned. Not announced, just adjusted. He called a long-time associate. No answer. Called again. Message received. Reply came hours later. Let's reconnect after things settle. Neutral words. Permanent distance. He tried another contact. Former mentor. Voice polite, but careful. You understand how sensitive perception is right now. Translation association is dangerous. Within 10 days, his professional network reorganized without him. No confrontation, no public rejection, just exclusion, systematic, complete. Social life followed next. Friends who once admired his lifestyle stopped inviting him out. Weekend gatherings continued. Without him. Group chats still active. He simply stopped appearing in them. Gradual disappearance. Like fading from a photograph. One evening, he walked into a restaurant where he used to dine weekly. Host recognized him. Paused. Checked reservation list longer than necessary. Then, I'm sorry, we're fully booked. Empty tables visible behind her. He understood. Presence equals association. Association equals risk. Online presence collapsed next. Followers stopped engaging. Comments changed tone. Curiosity first. Then analysis. Then quiet judgment. Then absence. Someone posted a discussion thread. How much of success is real and how much is presentation? No names mentioned. None needed. Everyone understood reference. The final blow came 2 weeks after the eviction. His fiancée requested a meeting. Neutral location. Private lounge. Minimal conversation. She looked different. Not emotional. Not hurt. Resolved. Which is worse. Because resolution means decision already made. She spoke calmly. My family conducted full background verification. He already knew outcome. Still asked. And you constructed identity through selective disclosure. Professional phrasing. Personal verdict. This marriage cannot proceed. She continued. No hesitation. No apology. No anger. Just closure. He tried once. Only once. I loved you. Her response immediate. You loved what association provided. Silence. Because truth doesn't require volume. She stood left. Didn't look back. That was the moment social death became complete. Professional credibility, gone. Financial positioning, unstable romantic alliance, terminated. Social network, dissolved. Public image, corrected. He moved into a temporary rental, smaller, anonymous, functional, no prestige, no symbolism, just shelter. Days became repetitive. Wake, check phone. No messages, no invitations, no opportunities, no urgency. Because no one needed him anymore. He began understanding something most people never experience fully. Reputation isn't decoration, it's infrastructure. And when infrastructure collapses, everything built on top collapses with it. Across the city, life continued normally. Market events happened. Parties hosted. Deals closed. His absence caused no disruption, which is the most devastating realization a status-driven person can face. You were never essential, only useful. 3 weeks after the wedding collapse, he finally understood why what happened to him felt worse than losing money, worse than losing property, worse than losing love. Because money can be earned again, property can be purchased again, relationships can be rebuilt. But trust, once publicly broken, rebuilds slower than identity itself. Late one night, he searched his own name online. First result, property transfer record. Second result, industry forum discussion. Third result, archived wedding vendor cancellation notice. Digital memory is permanent. Reputation unsearchable. He closed the laptop, sat in darkness, and for the first time since childhood, he wasn't angry at me. He wasn't angry at anyone. He was facing something far heavier. Recognition. Everything he built was real effort, real work, real ambition, but the foundation was never truth. And structures built on unstable foundations always collapse eventually. Across the city, I lived quietly, peacefully, no celebration, no revenge feeling, just equilibrium. Balance restored, ownership returned, narrative corrected. Social death doesn't look dramatic from the outside. No explosions, no screaming, no headlines, just gradual disappearance from importance, from influence, from relevance, and that's the most complete collapse a person who lives for status can ever experience. Not losing everything, but becoming someone no one needs to notice anymore. A silence is not always peaceful. Sometimes silence is the loudest scream a person can hear. That was the first thing she noticed after everything collapsed. Not the whispers, not the stares, not even the betrayal. It was the silence. The kind that presses against your chest like invisible weight. The kind that makes breathing feel like work. The kind that convinces you the world has moved on without you. And worse, that it prefers it that way. At first, she thought the isolation would feel temporary. A few days, maybe a week. People would calm down. Rumors would fade. Truth would surface. Someone would reach out, ask her side, defend her, stand beside her. But days turned into weeks, and silence became permanent. Her phone stopped lighting up. No messages, no calls, no accidental notifications. Even spam emails slowed down, as if the digital world itself had quietly erased her existence. She checked her contacts again and again, scrolling, hoping, waiting. Nothing. Her best friend, the one who once called her soul sister, had blocked her everywhere. Her colleagues removed her from group chats without explanation. Her neighbors stopped making eye contact in the hallway. Even the barista who used to smile every morning suddenly found urgent reasons to look busy whenever she walked in. It was subtle but absolute. She wasn't hated loudly. She was erased quietly, and that was worse. Social death did happen in a single moment. It happens in small humiliations, tiny cuts, invisible exclusions, like entering a room and conversations stopping mid-sentence, like laughter fading the second you approach, like hearing your name, followed by silence, followed by forced smiles, like being treated not as a villain, but as something more uncomfortable, something contagious. She stopped going outside after the third week, not because she wanted to hide, because every step into the world felt like walking through a museum of people who used to know her, now pretending she never existed. Grocery shopping became unbearable. People stared at their phones while secretly watching her reflection in freezer doors. A woman once abandoned her cart and left the aisle when she entered. Not fear. Discomfort, as if her presence reminded them of something fragile inside themselves, something they didn't want to confront. At night, the silence became unbearable. Daytime isolation is external. Nighttime isolation is internal. That's when the mind starts speaking. And the mind is cruel. It replays conversations that never happened. It imagines arguments you can't win. It rewrites memories, twisting them, poisoning them, turning every happy moment into evidence that it was never real. She began questioning everything. Was anyone ever genuine? Did they ever love her, or just the version of her that was useful? Was her life built on connection or convenience? And the most dangerous thought of all, maybe they're right about me. Sleep stopped coming naturally. Her body forgot how to rest. She would lie awake staring at the ceiling, heart-racing thoughts looping, replaying the moment everything changed. Again, again, again. Her chest would tighten, breath shallow, fingers trembling, as if her nervous system was trapped in permanent emergency mode. Some nights she didn't sleep at all. Other nights she slept for 14 hours and still woke up exhausted, heavy, numb, disconnected from her own body. Time lost meaning. Morning, afternoon, night, it all blurred into one long stretch of emotional fog. She stopped looking in mirrors, not out of shame, out of disconnection. The reflection felt unfamiliar. Eyes duller, shoulders slumped, movements slower, skin pale from lack of sunlight. But the strangest part wasn't physical. It was the emptiness behind her own gaze. Like someone had quietly removed the core of her identity, leaving only a functioning shell. She touched her face once gently, almost experimentally, as if confirming she was still real. But reality felt distant, muted, like watching life through thick glass. Then came the emotional fragmentation. One moment she felt nothing at all, complete numbness. The next, overwhelming waves of grief that arrived without warning. She cried while boiling water. She cried folding laundry. She cried because she remembered how her laugh used to sound and realized she hadn't heard it in weeks. Grief for relationships, grief for reputation, grief for identity. But the deepest grief was for the version of herself that believed belonging was permanent. Her thoughts grew darker, not dramatic, not theatrical, just heavy, persistent, exhausting. She began wondering what it would feel like to simply stop existing, not out of desperation, out of relief. Relief from thinking, from remembering, from feeling the constant pressure of invisible judgment. She never made plans, never took action. But the thought hovered quietly like background noise that never turned off. That frightened her, because it didn't feel emotional. It felt logical. The breakdown didn't happen in one explosive moment. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon while she was trying to open a jar. Her hands were weak from lack of eating properly. The lid didn't budge. She tried again, and suddenly, she couldn't breathe. Her vision blurred. Her hands shook violently. Her heart pounded so hard she thought something inside her chest would tear. She slid down to the kitchen floor, gasping, clutching her throat, convinced she was dying. But she wasn't dying. Her body was releasing weeks of suppressed fear, a full psychological collapse forced into physical form. She cried uncontrollably, not delicate tears but deep, primal sobs that seemed to come from somewhere ancient inside her nervous system. The kind of crying that empties a person completely. The kind that leaves nothing behind. After that day, something changed. The numbness deepened, but beneath it a strange clarity began forming. When a person loses everything external, they are forced to face what remains internal, and what remained surprised her. She noticed something disturbing. Despite the isolation, despite the humiliation, despite the emotional destruction, she was still here, breathing, thinking, observing. A part of her had shattered, but another part was watching, silent, unbroken. She began observing her own suffering like a scientist, not resisting it, not drowning in it, just watching. The anxiety, she noticed how it rose in waves. The grief, she saw how it tightened her chest before tears came. The intrusive thoughts, she noticed their patterns, their triggers, their rhythms. Pain became data. Emotion became information. And slowly awareness replaced helplessness. One evening, she opened the curtains for the first time in weeks. Sunlight flooded the room, harsh, almost painful to her eyes. Dust particles floated in golden beams of light. For a moment, she just stood there breathing, feeling warmth on her skin. Nothing dramatic happened. No sudden happiness. No transformation. Just presence. And strangely, that felt powerful. Social death had taken everything external, but it had revealed something internal most people never discover. The self that exists even when no one is watching, even when no one approves, even when no one remembers. The core identity that survives reputation, status, relationships, validation. She realized something terrifying and liberating. If the world could erase her, then she was free from its expectations. The breakdown wasn't the end. It was the stripping away. The psychological collapse was not destruction. It was exposure. Exposure of fear, of dependency, of identity built on external reflection. And once exposed, it could be rebuilt. But not yet. Healing had not begun. Strength had not formed. Hope had not returned. She was still standing in the ruins. But now, she could see clearly. And clarity is the first stage of transformation. That night, she slept without nightmares. For the first time since everything fell apart. Not peaceful sleep, not deep rest, but quiet. Her mind finally stopped screaming. And in that quiet, a single thought formed. Not emotional, not desperate. Just calm, steady, undeniable. If I survived losing everyone, then I can survive anything. Outside of the world still ignored her. Whispers still existed. Judgment still lingered. Her social identity was still dead. But something inside her had just taken its first breath, and what was being born was not the person they erased. It was someone entirely new, someone who had seen the void, and did not disappear inside it. The fallout had shattered her mind, but the psychological breakdown had revealed her foundation, and foundations are where rebuilding begins.